Welcome to episode 1 of the Poker Face podcast, Dead Man's Hand.
It's crazy the things that people stick up their asses.
Yeah. What are you reading?
10 craziest things people have stuck up their asses.
Just to listen to that clip there, Gerry, you ever put anything unusual up your ass?
Nope, just the usual.
So you're sitting that way?
It's 2023. Everyone's into it. No?
You just need to keep buzzing to a minimum when we're recording.
That's it. How are things?
Oh, not too bad, Gerry. We
We have not podcasted or, in fact, been in the same room for what, about 2 months?
It's been joyous, like a holiday.
Well, that's what it was, yeah. I always forget how, after a break, to get back into the swing of things.
I don't think I've spoken out loud directly to people for a sustained period of time.
It's all text these days. Text, Xboxes and text for the kids.
You're showing your age there, just ever so slightly.
Snapchat.
A bit like Charlie does in this episode, which we'll get to at one point.
No doubt.
What about Poker Face? Why are we talking about Poker Face?
Well, before we get to that, let's give the listeners a little bit of background. There might be some new ones.
Let's hope there are some new ones.
Well, I would like to think so. But also, we welcome back listeners from the Columbo podcast.
And we take them for granted, but we do welcome them back.
What have we been doing since we finished that?
Since we finished the Columbo podcast. After we did that episode saying we'll be back with more Columbo and then didn't do any more.
Well, we sort of are now.
Here we go. We did a few different shows. We went into Jonathan Creek and Sledgehammer.
Yeah.
We did Faulty Towers and Blackadder. We've done all of the original Star Trek series, and we're now partway through Quantum Leap. We've done 3 of the 5 seasons.
Yeah, the Leap Home. So if you're into Quantum Leap, give that a listen. I also think that Jonathan Creek would be a good fit if you like Columbo and you like Poker Face. Jonathan Creek, for me, until this point, I always considered Creek to be the sort of natural successor to Columbo. It was the closest that we had, I think.
That's one of the reasons that we covered it.
But hopefully, everyone is saying the reason why we're doing this is because popular demand.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping most folk aren't here hoping to hear about the Russell Crowe movie from a couple of years ago.
Or a Lady Gaga podcast.
That would be unfortunate.
Well, you never know.
Well, we can try that if there's a demand. I mean, I'm willing to give it a go.
If there's a demand, we'll do anything. And unlike a lot of these older shows that we have covered, this is more contemporary. Therefore, the people involved are more active on socials and still alive.
And communicating.
Yes. A bit nervous here because the man behind it all,
Mr. Johnson,
has indicated that he was a fan of the Columbo podcast, and maybe I'll be listening to this.
Well, a lot to live up to. Do we still have our fastball?
Yeah. Now, our style has generally been to sort of have a bit of a joke, a laugh at the expense of the show. On occasions, poke a bit of fun.
Definitely not going to be doing that.
No. Well, I think our integrity may well be called into question now.
Compromised completely and utterly.
Yeah. To paraphrase Groucho Marx, if you don't like my integrity,
here's some
other. Yeah. No, we'll try and
call it as we see it.
Honest as possible.
We've lost our shtick of does this stand up today? Because it's being done today, and we'll have to find something new, a new angle. Hopefully, will develop by itself as we go on.
Yeah, and I see that on IMDb anyway. There is a season 2 predicted. I'm not sure if it's been signed off or it's official, but it's certainly
lots of encouraging conversations and interviews that I've seen. Yeah,
the holding spot, as it were, is there. It does say episode 2.1. So
very busy people, of course, very successful and wonderful. The people who make this show.
That's enough. So, that's plenty.
Okay.
Now, on this occasion, the roles have been somewhat reversed.
Well, it depends what you listened to last. If you only listened to the Columbo podcast, they've not been reversed at all.
Yeah, they have. Because I am not the world's foremost expert.
Well, okay.
I've not watched it.
Neither am I.
So you've watched every episode so far, the first season?
I've watched the first season. You're watching them week by week.
Yeah, we knew this was always going to be on the cards, so I held back from watching so that I could be the sort of the newbie here. So I've only seen one episode. I've done no real research into it. I've not read any reviews, so I don't have any spoilers. And when I take my notes, I'm taking the notes live. So a lot of time I make a fool of myself where I'll say, this is obviously what's going to happen.
Yes.
And then, next scene it's like, wrong.
We're going to stick to our format of going basically scene by scene through the episode, and anything that occurs, we will discuss as we get to it. So don't worry if you think we need to get to something, it's a major point. We'll do it chronologically.
Sure.
Any other pieces of news, information, or advice we need to give the listeners before we actually get into the podcast?
Nah.
How about a summary?
Let's crack on.
In Dead Man's Hand, we are introduced to Natalie Hill, a housekeeper at the Frost Casino. Natalie stumbles across some disturbing content on the laptop of a high-end customer before turning up dead, apparently at the hands of her violent husband. One of Natalie's work colleagues is Charlie Cale, for now a waitress who has a flawless instinct for lies, a gift the casino puts to practical use. When her aptitude leads Charlie to realise Natalie's death was not as straightforward as the crime scene suggests, she sets herself in opposition to some very powerful people. But can Charlie figure out who killed her friend? And even if she does, will it make a difference?
Fantastic as always, Ian. Thank you.
That was a familiar little jingle. Is that from the Columbo podcast?
It is. If Poker Face can have lots of little nods and references to Columbo, I thought I'd put that in as a nod to our own variation.
To be fair, they don't point theirs out. So, before we get into the details, what were your first impressions of Poker Face?
What, after having watched it?
Having watched the first episode. It's the first time you watched it.
Oh yeah, loved it.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, no, I thought it was fantastic. It had the right balance, I think, of murder mystery with a bit of dark humour as well. And I think there's a massive amount of potential for the characters and the stories.
What did you think of the Columbo comparison?
I mean, it's obvious in terms of the references that it makes to it, but it doesn't go too far. Now, during the podcast, we can discuss there are certain points and times where I thought something might have happened that it didn't, and I'm glad it didn't to an extent. So a lot of little touches that are subtle, and maybe if you are only a casual Columbo viewer, you might not even pick up on.
Yeah.
But I thought that we'll chat about that, but some of the mannerisms of the main character were undeniably...
Yeah. I think what I found was once you get to episode 3 or 4, there's certain mannerisms and aspects of her performance that it screams Columbo in your head, not so much in the first couple of episodes. So.
Okay, well, yeah, but even in this one, there were some that I went, that is 100%, and it was lovely.
Yeah, no, I agree, it's a great series.
Yeah.
Without giving any spoilers.
Mm-hmm.
For more spoiler-free chat, you can talk to us on social media, of course. We are on the original @Columbo podcast handle on X or Twitter, whatever we're going to call it. We've also got that handle on Threads, if that's still going by the time you hear this, and on Instagram. You can find us at the usual Columbo Podcast Facebook page, and if you go to columbopodcast.com, we'll be putting up show notes for every episode. You can also get these episodes on your favourite podcast provider or YouTube.
That you?
Well, also please review us if you haven't already.
Okay, where do we begin, or how does it begin?
Well, there's an instantly familiar looking bit of text on the screen, isn't it? That font, that font, style.
The yellow, yeah. Not just that, but there is no obvious theme tune, which was like Columbo. And they used the Roman numerals. I mean,
I think that's common in television.
Is it? Even these days, I'm not sure.
I mean, I even know the Roman numerals for certain years from watching BBC program like MCMX CVII was 2008.
Do you know why they use Roman numerals, not just normal?
Just to mock stupid people?
No.
Okay.
There's two main theories. Not sure which one is true, but the primary one is that it's so that it doesn't date the show as much as what it could do.
Take the time to figure it out.
Most people won't know what it is, so they don't realise what year it was produced or broadcast. And also there's a second, they might both be correct, that the film stock back in the day would deteriorate over time.
Okay.
And the sort of blurring would make the numbers harder to recognise.
It's clearer.
Yeah, who knows? Anyway.
It was very Columbo-ish opening, actually, this sort of point of view from a housekeeper's trolley.
Yes, we're in a hotel following it's quite a garish carpet along I think any shots like this now remind people of The Shining.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
Yeah. As credits appear on the screen.
Alerting us of some famous faces to come.
Yes. It's silent apart from the background hum, which I think created quite a nice atmosphere of a foreboding.
You get the squeaking of the wheels as well of this trolley. And the camera eventually pans up to show the length of the corridor where another housekeeper, who we later learn is Natalie, is pulling another trolley along.
Yeah, she's going about her duties in a room before she enters the empty presidential suite. I think it was number 1848.
Is that significant?
Well, no, I don't think so. I'm always a bit geeky with this, and I always assume, because if it was me and I was putting numbers in,
you would choose something.
I would choose a date. So I looked at it, there's not really...
It could be the 8th of January 48 if it's American.
1848, there was a European Revolution. There was not a lot going on in that particular date, so maybe it is just random.
It's the year my dad was born, but...
1848?
No, 48. So it was like months and then 48 in the year, but I don't think it's for that. I'm pretty sure.
No.
Given that the other two numbers are wrong.
Anyway, within seconds of entering the room, she sees an open laptop. What does it contain?
Something horrific. We are not shown what it is, but she is utterly disgusted immediately.
Certainly. A couple of questions about this then. If you had such horrific content on your screen, knowing you're in a hotel where
people come in
and out, would you leave that open when you go for a 20-minute shower?
No.
You wouldn't.
Unless you were doing it as a power play to intimidate somebody.
Now, we never find out what's on, but it's hinted at that's not a type of sort of power play. You might have images of yourself with your everything on display, or graphic, normal, mainstream pornography, perhaps. The type of thing that you assume is on this screen, I'm not sure how much of a power play that is.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. No, it seems an odd... I've even noted down here, would you not close your screen or turn it off if you were leaving the room? As
mentioned, we don't find out, we don't see what's on the screen. So my first note here was, Pulp Fiction. You've not seen Pulp Fiction, have you? I think I've
got it set up to watch. I've had it for years.
Criticised you already. I think, in fact, every podcast we've done, we've had a discussion on Pulp Fiction and the fact that you've never seen it. It's a shambles.
It's not the only film I've never seen.
Oh, that's true.
There's at least 7 or 8. Godfather.
Yeah. Anyway, people know what I'm talking about. You don't see what's in the box.
Most people will know what you're talking about. Yeah. So, like I say, my note was, does this guy not know how hotels work?
In any case, it's so terrible that it causes Natalie to run to the corridor. She tries to compose herself before she returns and uses her phone to take a picture of the screen.
Yes, and we hear a toilet flushing as she does that, so we know that the occupant of the room is there.
Now, in fairness then, if he's only going for a quick poo... Different maybe if you're getting out or going for a shower, but if you're only in the toilet for 2 minutes...
And the other difference might be if it's not a still image, if it's a live stream, you would want to keep it connected.
Would you?
If you were him.
Right. Yeah, okay, that's a plausible explanation, I think. So she has to quickly disappear, and we see quite a ghostly dressed man come out of the bathroom. Now, this is a bit of a... Immediately you can tell he's either Russian or American mafia, but probably sort of Russian. So that sort of trope.
I thought he had an American look at him, but okay.
No, the styling.
Right.
See, the American mafia would be more just sort of black leisure suits or maybe a sort of satin or velvet blue, whereas this colourful tends to be the trope of the Eastern European.
Okay. He realises immediately that someone's been in his room because there's new towels.
Again, what does he think is going to happen? It's a hotel.
Yeah, but he knows that he's been observed.
He thinks to himself, I'm going to open this and view this horrific content, then I'm going to go to the toilet. What I definitely won't do is...
I don't think he's calling it horrific content from his point of view.
He knows it's horrific content. Stick the do not disturb.
Well, you would think, stick up on the door, or maybe, given it's the presidential suite, he has an arrangement and Natalie's just not aware of it.
If it's an arrangement, she should know.
Yeah.
I mean, anyone servicing the presidential suite should be given these orders. I mean, also you have to think to yourself, like, when he's watching this, what is he going to be doing? So therefore, he doesn't want people walking in.
That's true.
Anyhow, let's move on from this.
Natalie panics and runs to the stairwell on the 18th floor.
She tries to make a call before hanging up and then heads down to the casino floor, where she tells the head of security,
Cliff,
the guy called, about what she has seen, and shows him the photograph.
Well, before that though, Cliff says to her, "Is he back?" Which is a reference to something that happened earlier but later in the episode, which we'll get to. She says no to that and then explains what she saw in the high roller room and shows Cliff these images that she's taken of the laptop screen. She
is then escorted up to the owners, or the
his office.
Yeah, the manager at this point, Stilling Frost
Jr.
Where we've got this sort of nice push camera shot as Cliff informs him by phone that they've got a code red.
Yes. Cliff tells Natalie that everything is going to be all right and asks Frost's secretary Ginger to get her a water or maybe something stronger.
At this point, Stirling appears, and a moment later we see him pondering the image and seems quite upset about the situation and how he's going to handle it. And I think he asked Natalie if she is sure that it was that particular room, and she says, yeah, it was 1848.
Yeah, at one point he says he can't believe it, but has to reassure Natalie. It doesn't mean he literally can't believe it, he's just shocked. And
she's worried because she knows who's in there. It's this Mr. Kane, and he's an important customer.
Yes, but Frost tells her that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how much money he has or what he means to the casino. This is beyond moral revulsion to the point of being illegal.
Yeah, and that she acted correctly, which is clearly a relief to her.
Do you think he is surprised?
I think he's surprised that... Well, no, yeah. I don't think that Kane broadcast this.
No, well, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, I think he's surprised that she's found out and it's been exposed. He probably thinks that this guy is capable of anything. Okay. Or maybe but yeah, I don't think he was expecting this. And I've noted at this point as well that these two have, Cliff and Stilling have got like bad guys written all over them.
The little nods and winks, isn't there? He tells Cliff that they'll do what they have to do, and at this point Natalie's worrying about what she needs to do before she leaves.
Yeah, he says, don't worry about clocking off. They're going to support her, help with any statements that she has to make to the cops or the FBI, etc. And Stirling asks if her husband is at home. And when she says he is, he asks if she feels safe going back to him. That's a strange question at this point.
Yes, it ties in again to that thing that Cliff said. We also at this point see Stirling delete the image from her phone in a very tech unsavvy way.
Yeah, so I've got a reasonable issue with this. So, yeah, she says she's fine, and at this point he covertly deletes this image by simply pressing delete. Now, two things stood out at this point, and they do get sort of raised later on. Anyone over the age of 5 knows that if you delete a picture, there's one that's only in your trash can on the phone, but also it's most probably backed up to the cloud somewhere. That is not good enough. Like, I don't know what he was thinking.
Well, I think you have to, or my reading or my take on this is that you're assuming from this, or you're taking from this, that he is not tech savvy. He doesn't understand how this phone works.
I don't accept that. My father in his 70s is not what I would call tech savvy, but I think even he would know that. Certainly a guy in his, 40s, 50s.
Well, you would expect him. Maybe he's one of these guys who doesn't live in the real world. He's got a lot of money. He doesn't need...
Yeah, but he'd have all the gadgets as well. He would have phones and all that type of stuff. He would know. He's been brought up.
He obviously doesn't know, because he wouldn't do this if he knew.
But Cliff should know as well.
Maybe Cliff doesn't know what he's doing.
See it.
And ultimately, maybe Cliff doesn't care, because the solution they're going to come up with maybe doesn't matter if the image is on the phone.
Okay. In any case, she is told to keep quiet for the night so that Kane doesn't hear that he's been busted and flee.
That's
before
an odd request, isn't it?
At this point, well...
If you're Natalie, you're thinking, hang on.
Are you? Yeah. I mean...
Keep quiet for a while?
Okay, well, they've got to... Let's say they do it by the book, so they immediately call the police.
Yep.
But that... You might take... It's not like an emergency. The police might take hours to arrive.
Yep.
And if he hears about it before then, yeah, he could be out there.
Well, what difference does it make if you call the police in the morning? They could still might take hours to arrive.
True, but still giving them more time to get out of there. Anyway.
Cliff sees her out and then returns and asks Frost whether they should call his father.
This seems to anger him, as he claims he can handle this himself. He's obviously got some sort of complex here.
Yeah, I think we come to learn that he thinks his father sees him as a failure and incompetent, basically.
Yeah, and so Cliff asks for instruction.
We then see Cliff down at the casino retrieving a gun from his office and heading out at the same time as Natalie gets changed in the staff locker room and leaves, barely acknowledging one of her colleagues.
Yeah, I mean, we should say it's quite a distinctive, I think it's like a pearl-handled revolver, so it's quite obvious what it is. Yeah, and we see Natalie, she gets by at some colleagues outside who call on her and she just ignores them. She's obviously upset, she's agitated, And we see from this exterior shot that we're in this is the Frost casino.
Yeah.
So Sterling Frost, it's the family business. He's not just a manager or an employee.
No. We get a bit of a skip ahead and we see Cliff pulling up one of those sort of pop-up houses you get a lot of in America that we don't really have here.
Yes. They're sort of fairly, it's almost like a pre-packed house, an IKEA house.
That sort of thing, yeah. He bangs on the door, but the man inside just yells back that they're not voting.
Yeah. Now, before we get to that, this is outside Natalie's home. Yeah?
It turns out to be, yes.
There's a really nice shot of the casino in the background as the camera lowers down from this onto the street level of this modest house.
Yeah.
And I think why it's a great shot is that it shows that the casino dominates this area.
Yeah.
So it's whoever owns that, it's got a lot of power. It's probably the largest employer in the area. It is,
Yeah, you get the scale of the thing, don't you?
Exactly. And these houses, these people live in the shadow of this business.
Probably the town grew around it to a certain extent.
Yeah,
well,
sure.
Not originally, but maybe that's what keeps people going.
Yeah, without a doubt, this will be the largest employer in the area. So people won't necessarily want to cause any bother. Yeah.
Cliff keeps banging on this door until the man, who we will later learn is Gerry.
With a J.
With a J. It's always with a J in these shows.
No, in Columbo Butterfly with the Shat, the victim was Gerry with a G.
Okay, but there was the one with Gerry with a J and the one when he was fiddling with somebody's car.
Mm-hmm. With the actress. Yeah. Anyway.
Someone will tell us. Yes, eventually it's Gerry with a J, who is Natalie's concerning husband.
Yeah, I think he's sitting drinking or maybe even smoking on the couch and watching Monster Truck. We're given the impression he's a bit of a
stereotype.
Yeah, trailer trash type. Yeah,
you get an immediate picture of this guy's lifestyle.
Yeah, so he gets up, goes to the door, what happens?
Cliff shoots him in the side of the head and then turns up the volume of the television and puts the lights out.
Yes, to wait in the dark for Natalie, who arrives.
Well, we see her driving home and missing a call from Charlie. We don't know who Charlie is
yes.
at this point. She pulls up outside the house and gives a big sigh before heading in. Obviously, she's going to have to deal with her husband.
Yeah, and I think it's worth pointing out that we see on her dashboard a nodding dog.
Yes, in a hula skirt. I looked into whether that was a big thing, but
okay.
Apparently not.
She enters the house and is met with the same fate.
Yes, immediately shot dead by Cliff, who then shoots her again, puts the gun in Gerry's hand and leaves before calling Frost from the car to tell him it's done.
Yeah, it's clearly meant to look like a murder-suicide. Now, I've got, again, maybe a couple of questions or issues with this. I've watched enough TV cop shows over the years and true crime. If you fire a gun, you get the gun residue, don't you?
Yep.
Over the hand of the shooter. That won't be there.
Nope. But we will come to learn why they're not worried about that.
Well, yeah, we'll discuss that. But obviously the blood splatter, things like that. And yeah, maybe I'll be confident that the cops won't
look too far into it. Yeah. And we actually, while we're on this phone call from Cliff to Frost, we hear a woman in the background asking if Frost is all right. He says, yes, and where were we? And that's the end of the scene. And
well, yeah, okay, but before we do, just the other thing as well, it's very chancy. He's parked his car right outside the victim's house, walked in, shot, then sat in the car, had a call. Any number of people. Okay, let's assume that he's confident that the cops won't look into it. But you've got all these other neighbours. They could report it to, it's at a federal level.
Well, they might, but maybe they wouldn't bother.
It's still chancy. If I'm going to kill someone, I'm going to make sure as much as possible.
It's not the most carefully thought out plan, is it?
No.
It's almost like Cliff's doing it to show Sterling what a bad plan it is. It's like, I'll do exactly what you say and you'll go to prison.
No.
Along with me.
Yes.
We then get a bit of a skip, and this is a device that we don't realise has been deployed until a little bit later.
Yeah, for a moment I was a little bit confused. So,
I think everyone watching this first episode will, because you don't know. They use it in every episode, so you know that coming up.
Yeah, that's fine then.
But for the first episode, it's kind of, you're on your own to figure this out, which is good. They don't handhold you too much.
That's brilliant. So it's next morning, we're at a trailer.
We hear what we come to learn what we will come to learn is Charlie's theme music.
Yes, it's a banjo score.
Yep. It's they kind of copied off us in this maybe the other way around. I don't know.
As the light shines through the blinds, and we see that this is parked in a dusty desert lot beside a couple of silos, as the woman who we come to know as Charlie, she's maybe what, in her 30s, late 30s, 40, I don't know, around about then.
How generous do you want to be?
We'll say that she's...
I think she's older than me and probably in your age bracket.
Ha! Very good. But also as well, it could be that she's younger and, you know, from what we see, she doesn't look after herself particularly well, so she may look older than what the character's meant to be.
Yeah, maybe.
In any case, she's in her bed, she's scrolling through her phone and eventually motivates herself to get up.
Do you think it would have been better to have a sort of a little caption saying 24 hours earlier?
No. I made that note. I didn't mention it there, but that's what normally you'd have. That's the sort of the hand holding.
Standard,
yeah. But no, let's find out. And again, because it becomes a convention, we only need it that one time to. Yeah. So outside, what happens?
She has a brief interaction with her neighbour, a guy called John O, who wants to know if she wants cut in on a stack of mint Playboys that he's going to stick on eBay.
Now let's describe her. She's wearing a trucker cap. She's what we would unkindly call sort of trailer trashy.
Yeah, well, maybe beyond that. So the costume people describe her as, I've got a note of this actually, 70s meets Western meets desert. Yeah,
well, I would also say that she looks like an 80s heavy metal guy.
Noddy Holder.
No, not Noddy Holder. No, Dave Mustaine from Megadeth.
Okay.
Or maybe somebody Metallic or Iron Maiden back in the early 80s.
Yeah.
It's that, the hair really gives it that sort of look.
We used to work with a guy who looked a bit like that.
Let's not go there. I'm not talking facially, obviously. I'm talking about the overall styling.
Yeah. She goes through a lot of sunglasses, we'll come to see.
Yeah. So she sits in a chair, declines this offer of the Playboy money. She pulls a beer from a cool box and they have a bit of banter with him clearly being a bit of an old rascal. Now, a couple of things about this. You know, this is the first time we see, first thing that she does is drink, and she does it all through
her morning beer.
She's clearly an alcoholic, perhaps a functioning alcoholic, but
appears to be the case.
Yeah. And this guy here, John O, I thought this would have been built up as a sort of recurring character. I'm disappointed to find out.
Well, just the nature of the story, couldn't it? Yeah.
He seems like the type of sort of sidekick or comedy foil that you might have.
Yeah, just kind of wandering through scenes.
Yeah.
Yeah. He does come back later in this one. We see Charlie next to her car, which won't start. It's a Plymouth Barracuda fastback.
It is.
It's going to be about 50 years old.
Yeah. Yeah. Classic car, no doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they've got this picture of someone who's sort of down in their luck. I know Carrot doesn't work. She's living in a trailer. She's drinking beer as soon as she walks up.
She doesn't have any significant means.
No.
We'll put it that way.
No. So she has to call on a friend for a lift into work.
She asks whether they've left yet, and this is where it gets a bit confusing if you haven't clocked the time.
Well, I'll be perfectly honest here. For a moment I thought to myself, am I being terribly sort of casually racist? I went, is that the same person?
Oh dear, Gerry.
Well, I did, and I thought, no, she looks like that.
To be fair, they put a hat on Natalie to kind of half disguise her, but it is Natalie who is giving Charlie a lift. Isn't she dead? Did I miss something?
I wiped my brow. I thought, no, I'm not just thinking she looks the same. Yeah, good.
She is telling Natalie, Charlie is on her phone telling Natalie about some horrible news that Natalie doesn't want to hear. She's having a tough morning.
Yeah, Charlie's on her phone talking to the dark web and Russians and some sort of dodgy rings of abusers.
To be fair, Charlie sounds like someone who doesn't really understand these things and has just heard the terms.
Yes, that could go either way, but that's a type of person who could fall into this sort of trap of believing all of these QAnon and whatever it is these days you've got, and believing all and hating the Russians because they're all part of...
Yeah. Natalie's not interested. She says that Charlie's daft to listen to the news and make herself angry about things she can't fix. You'd be better off just listening to music.
But she says, I'm going to do something about this right now, and we see her tweeting a response to this article, which also contains conspiracy stuff about UFOs and all that other malarkey.
She just types the word sick with some exclamation marks, and that's her making a difference. I've mentioned the hula dog bobblehead here.
Yes, which is why
earlier on. That tells you it's the same person.
Exactly.
It's nice. In any way confused.
So that's a shorthand rather than saying 48 hours earlier, or whatever it is, or 24 hours earlier. We get it from that.
They approach Frost Casino, and we then see them talking in the locker room. Charlie asks Natalie if she's okay,
No,
Not the locker room yet. Sorry, they're still in the car?
Nope, they're going through security.
I just have work written, so I don't...
Right, okay.
Yes.
A metal detector, which is vitally important.
Yeah, so Charlie asks Natalie if she's okay, and when she gets an affirmative response, this is the first look we get at her special lie-detecting talent.
Yeah, she removes her sunglasses and we find that she's got a black eye.
Charlie says, if I hear BS, I say BS.
Yeah. Now in the locker room, Charlie, I think, threatens to break Gerry's face as Natalie tells another colleague about how she found the numerous dick pics on his phone, juxtaposed beside more wholesome snaps. It was funny how she described what happened. I'm sure there's people that can probably relate to that.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Because it was backed up in the cloud, obviously.
We should also note that the colleague that Natalie's chatting quite happily to is the one that she ignored when she left earlier in the episode.
Right, yeah, so that shows that it would be unusual for her not to acknowledge her.
There must have been something up.
And after, she closes her combination lock and she states to an unconvinced Charlie that she kicked out Gerry.
She doesn't believe that.
No, not at all.
We then get a brief montage of Charlie serving drinks from the casino floor and stealing or drinking from them.
Well, she's drinking from drinks that maybe have been half finished.
That's an alcohol problem, right?
Yeah, that's probably a sackable offence as well. And we know that in casinos, there's cameras everywhere. She's getting caught doing this.
Yeah, so there must be a reason that they haven't sacked her.
And at one point as well, that's confusing. I'm sure she took a smoke. But surely, even in the casinos in America these days, you can't smoke.
Maybe if you're rich enough, you can do what you want.
She's not rich enough.
Well, that's true. Was she outside?
No, she walked by. I'm sure she took a puff of a cigarette.
Maybe. I didn't catch it.
Anyway, outside, having finished her shift.
She's on a smoke break, I thought.
Oh, okay. No, I think she was...
Well, not everyone's finished. Some people are finished and some people aren't.
Right, anyway,
they're all smoking together. And another guy comes out and calls her Chuck and says that the big guy wants to see her before she leaves.
Before I forget, it might have been too... I don't know. Do you think this character, Charlie, could have been called Frankie? Because we know that Columbo's first name is Frank.
Yeah.
That would have been a nice little nod. And I don't, in fact, it wouldn't have been too on the nose because I don't think enough people would have picked up on it.
Yeah, it could have been. But I don't think they want to just be that religious in their following of Columbo. It's more kind of inspired by rather than entirely shaped by.
Sure.
Charlie wants to know which big guy it is that wants to see her.
And I think he points up at the name above on the building.
Yes. Up in Frost's office, we see Ginger's on a call, taking notes for some meeting that's coming up, and Charlie has to wait and fiddle with her phone. Yeah.
And I think we see as well, even with that, when she's told that the big boss wants to see her, she's not that stressed. She's a fairly relaxed individual. And we find out more about that later on.
Yeah, so she texts someone at this point saying she needs to stay late because she's getting fired and she'll get an Uber home. So I presume that's not Natalie. Because...
Yeah, it's Natalie. Natalie will have driven her home.
Why would Natalie... Because Natalie hasn't left yet and is going to leave early, so they're not finishing at the same time. It must be somebody else that's finishing at the same time as Charlie.
Did we not see the screen? I can't remember.
I just don't think the timeline makes sense if this is Natalie.
Okay. I'll need to double check that later on.
Okay. Anyway, Frost comes out at this point. He brings Charlie through into his room and says he's pleased to meet her at last. He offers her a drink.
Yeah, so she sits down and is tempted by the drink, obviously, but perhaps sensing it's a trap, she declines and suggests that he does what she's there for.
He asks what she thinks this is.
And so she notes that when Sterling's dad gave him the casino, there must have been a lot of paperwork to get through, and that he only now informed his son about her recently. So there's obviously some history between her and the father.
Yeah.
He corrects her, however, and says that he only manages the casino. He wasn't given it, but admits that he was only just told about her thing.
Yeah, so given what we know about her thing, can we assume if she doesn't challenge someone that they are speaking the truth?
No, I don't think we can, because she won't. As she says later, people tell lies all the time. It should constantly be... People are allowed to lie.
Okay, so she's not always going to call it out, but if it's important and she doesn't say anything about it, we can assume that it was not a lie.
I'd say so, but sometimes she might think it's important, but it's in her interest to not let them know that she knows.
Yeah, we'll see, okay.
In any case, she thinks that it is time for her to get fired and doesn't know why his father kept her around. But Sterling claims he liked her, which she strongly refutes before asking about the story that Sterling has heard.
Once upon a time in Denver, a milquetoast collection of the best poker players in central Colorado met at a Fairfield Inn suite off I-25. Well, not a barn burner, just a run-of-the-mill Thursday night mid-stakes ring game. A young woman from out of town was at the table. She was cute. She livened up the room. She had plenty of cash, so they let her play. 3 hours later, she mopped the floor with each and every one of them. Which happens. But this had been happening. Previous week in Cheyenne, week before in Rapid City. Same young woman, cutting a haphazard path across the middle of the country. Never in any big games, never in corporate-owned casinos, but always the same result. She didn't lose. Word spread quick, because as you know, gamblers talk. But here's the thing. As far as anyone could tell, she was playing straight. No wires, no shills. And yet, she played with an almost supernatural infallibility. Like she was seeing through the cards. So, when she showed up here, snuck into a tournament, my dad was interested. And he watched her. Secretly. He watched her play for 2 days, sat in the crow's nest, 10 hours a day, himself. He studied her. And my dad figured out what she was doing. Even when he figured it out, he couldn't believe it. It was impossible. It was insane. But there was no other explanation.
I think that with a lesser actor there, that could have been seen as a bit of an exposition dump. But Adrian Brody is just so obviously fantastic and charismatic.
Yeah.
That
carries it.
It does carry it, yeah.
I have questions about how Charlie's skill applies to poker.
I think we both do.
She, at points in this episode, explicitly states she only notices if an explicit lie is told.
Yes.
Someone who knows they're lying says something untrue.
Well, when they're practicing, we see that later. He's calling the cards, and she's able to say if it's accurate or not.
Yeah, but that's not how you play poker.
No.
At no point in a game of poker does someone say what they have.
No. Well, certainly 99% of the time you wouldn't do that. So, yeah, I'm not sure how in poker you would tell.
And if folks say, oh, that you can tell that they're bluffing because it's the same idea, but there's other times in the episode when people aren't being honest but aren't straight up lying and she can't tell.
Yes.
So how could you tell in poker?
Yeah, because later on she has to ask, she actually says, are you lying?
Yes.
So that she can...
Or say this if it's not true.
Mm. Yeah, I don't understand how that would work in poker.
No.
Oh, well.
Unless the way she plays the game, she asks them questions across the table. It's like, have you got a good hand there? No.
Have you got a double six?
How many reds are you holding?
In any case, she responds to the clip there by smiling and not denying it, which delights Sterling.
Yes, he's amazed, but he notes that she hasn't gambled since his father caught her.
Yeah, and she's decided at this point it's okay to get a drink and goes and helps herself.
Yeah, she says that his father put out the word that she played dirty, even though that wasn't true, and she's now blackballed across the country because gamblers talk.
Yeah, word travels fast. However, she seems to have taken it quite well and insists that, with a grin, she was only glad her fingers weren't broken by the father, who can be a very scary man.
Yes, and Frost notes that his father gave her a job here to keep her in a cage, essentially, but she doesn't seem to be angry about that.
No, she's quite philosophical in her nature. She says, with a smile again, that she was never some sort of poker mastermind or some criminal.
There was no master plan.
No, she's a bit of a dumbass who used her skill and, well, she made some nice money. She got caught and that was always going to be on the cards. And she's now happy with her life. She's quite content. I don't think she wants for much more. She says she would be bummed if she does get fired, but hey, you know what? I'll get another job. They're easy to come by, these waitressing gigs, and I'll be fine again.
And here's where we get the point where he tests her skills on some cards, and she says to him, it only works if someone is intentionally lying.
Yes.
So how does... I don't know.
Don't know.
Anyway, she realises at this point that he is not firing her. He wants to use this skill because it's criminal not to use such a gift.
Yes, and rather than squander it, she can make herself very rich. However, she points out that she's been rich before and agrees that while it was easier than being broke, it was harder than doing just fine, which I thought was a nice turn of phrase.
He needs to know... Sorry, he tells her there's a difference between having money and being rich. He needs to know by the end of the next day whether she's in or not.
Yeah. Now, I think this is the point where his phone goes.
Because a drunk is on the casino floor shouting for his wife, which makes Charlie a bit concerned.
Yeah, I think she asks who he's shouting for. So we head down to the floor itself, and we see that it is Gerry. He's obviously drunk, he's screaming for Natalie, he's abusing the patrons and his wife.
Yes, as her colleagues are kind of shepherding her away from him.
Yeah, so Charlie comes down and she sees Natalie at the other side of the floor, but Gerry doesn't see his wife.
No. So she tries to calm Gerry down before security pin him to a gaming table, and Charlie spots the gun that he has holstered on his ankle.
Yes. So Cliff, I think it is, he removes the gun, and we see security effectively toss him out through the staff entrance or exit.
Yeah. And we then see Cliff in his office put the gun down, which we recognise as the one that he uses.
Again, that's why it was a sort of pearl handle, because you can
so obvious
identify that it's the same gun, yeah.
Meanwhile, Charlie's now speaking to Natalie, reassuring her that it's okay, Cliff got him, and she says that Gerry's been texting crazy stuff all morning, but her phone was off.
Yeah, she's working, so she turns her phone off, as you would expect.
Of course.
And she's quite a compassionate boss. Manager, he tells her to take the rest of the day off, and Charlie insists that she stay with her that night.
In her caravan.
Another trailer, yeah.
Natalie's naturally reluctant, but I think agrees.
And we find them lying together on her bed.
Watching Pulp Fiction.
Watching Pulp Fiction, yes. Playing a DVD player. I think there's a mention of a character Kane in this scene.
So Charlie's reading clickbait on her phone.
Yeah, and we had that at the top of the podcast.
Yes, and Natalie's telling her about how Gerry will be apologetic when he gets home, and he'll promise to get sober.
For a while. And then it'll lapse back into the same sort of relationship. Charlie, I think she suggests a restraining order.
Yeah, but I think Natalie's point is that she's not in a position where she can upend her whole life.
No, she says that it's his home. She'd have to basically leave and would be homeless, so it's not, you know.
Oh no, it has to go back to her mother, I think she says.
Right, okay.
Which is just as bad from her point of view.
Yeah.
Charlie said she could come and live in the caravan, but we get a roll of the eyes from Natalie at that one.
I think they both know it's not a long-term solution. Now, we go to the crow's nest, which is a sort of lookout point over a casino floor.
Well, before that, though, we get this sort of weird exchange where Natalie reckons that in another life, Charlie must have been a knight, and Charlie says she would be like Lady Galahad and waves a invisible sword.
Right, okay. Actually, yeah, before we get to the crow's nest, we've got a nice sort of time lapse.
Yes, I've got that. Fast-moving clouds in the darkening sky, and it's now night time. Charlie
is sitting with Sterling while they watch Kane play at the table, and he explains to her that Kane's a whale. He's a high roller.
Yeah, he's one of 4 or 5 that they get into the casino. They fly them in, they drop a ton of cash, which is nothing to them, and Kane is the Moby Dick of the whales.
He goes on to mention that his father, before handing over the casino or the management of it, gave him 3 bits of advice.
Yes, number 1, keep the carpets clean. Mm-hmm. Number 2, keep Kane happy.
What's the third?
We never find that out, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, well, it's obviously about Charlie.
You think?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. At this point, Kane is raising big, and Charlie says he isn't bluffing. How does she know?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Anyhow, it turns out that he's been making money on the side in games in his suite, which the casino doesn't profit from, which has upset Frost.
And therefore, he wants Charlie to help fleece Kane, and they head to his office to discuss this further.
All right, so let me get this straight. You get me in his private game, and I take him. We both make a ton of dough. He gets his hand slapped, thinks maybe private games are not such good luck for him. Sticks to the tables.
Not you, though. It's too risky. He's seen you on the floor. Got to work a camera system, get a show in the game. You signal him. We'll figure it out. Can you do your thing over video?
Yeah, I think so. And so when is this game?
Day after tomorrow. We got 48 hours.
And your dad's all right with this, us plucking his golden goose.
My dad? I told them. Hold on.
Has your dad okayed this?
It's my name on the office door. Ginger, I told you.
Unless a 12-foot J and R are being shipped, it's still his name on the casino. I don't care if he's retired. If I piss off your dad again, he'll break more than just my fingers.
Hey, give me 20 minutes. I'll meet you in the crow's nest in 20.
Well, you gotta actually work.
Here, use the private elevator.
Oh, la la. Is that a bar? Wow.
Who needs a bar in an elevator?
How long are you even in the elevator for? Talking about his dad seems to be a sore point for...
Yeah, I mentioned that earlier. It's quite clear. I think it's fairly common when you've got a really successful parent.
A name to live up to,
Yeah.
So anyway, Charlie heads off in this fancy elevator that I quite liked. And we see Frost open the door to Cliff and Natalie, the same as we saw earlier in the episode.
So after he takes this meeting, he returns to Charlie at the crow's nest.
So this is the point where the episode starts to move forward. So it's taken us, I think, 40% of the runtime to get to where we started.
Okay.
We do see a bit of time passing before he comes up to the crow's nest, though.
Yeah, and she's trying to make a return call to the missed call from Natalie.
Yeah, which is the call we saw Natalie miss in her car.
Yes.
Frost shows up, he apologises for being late, and he asks her what it's like always knowing the truth. And again, she clarifies she only knows when someone is lying, and she says, outside poker, it's not so useful as you'd think. But, okay, let's not do this again.
Yeah. Also, she says that, it's not fun, really. People are lying all the time about lots of little small things, and it's like just constant chat on it. It would be, if you constantly knew people were lying, it'd be annoying, even if it wasn't important.
Yeah.
And I think she says that the hardest part is to work out why they're lying. Yeah.
At this point, Frost takes the call that we saw Cliff make from his car after killing Natalie and Gerry earlier on. And Charlie, who we heard earlier on but didn't know it was Charlie, asks if everything's okay.
Yeah.
Is that right?
This is also one of the first times where I noticed a lot of sort of Columbo mannerisms with Charlie. The raised arms one at a time. That was very reminiscent.
She asks whether Frost will have to kill her if she pulls out of the scam.
And quite worryingly, he doesn't say no, but instead asks if she's worried about his dad and claims that he gave him the job because he trusts him.
Charlie knows that he doesn't believe that's true.
She immediately calls it BS.
If you Google him, he's had some bad situations in the past.
And again, that is quite a common thing. The rich kids have too much money, not enough to do, and they get themselves involved in all sorts of generally drink, drugs, and women.
He calls this his last chance to prove he isn't who his dad thinks he is. And his dad's only let him run the casino because it basically runs itself. I
think she's quite cheeky here as well, because he says, my dad thinks that the casino runs itself, and she says, yeah, you're going to disprove this. Prove him wrong here. He'll find a way of messing it up.
From his point of view, he wants to put his stamp on things, but from her point of view, he's going to mess things up.
He then seals the deal with her by offering 1.5 million for this one job with no further obligation.
And she agrees to this ultimately.
Well, you would, wouldn't you?
I would think so.
Why not?
Well, it really depends, but in these circumstances, yeah.
Yeah.
We then skip ahead to the next day where we see Charlie crying as she reads about Natalie's murder on her phone.
Yeah, she goes from this high point to an incredibly low ebb. She's on the Nevada Daily, I think it is.
Yeah.
About an apparent murder-suicide of Nat and Gerry. And there's a close-up of her eyes with a tear dropping down. I thought, again, that was some Columbo shots with Robert Culp, I think was it Brimmer? Yeah, the close-up of his eyes. So.
Yes. Innovative techniques and so on.
Yeah.
Anyhow, in the locker room, Charlie is hearing from, I think, is it Shell?
Yeah, she's still in a state of shock as she looks again at her missed call. As this colleague from earlier mentions that she saw Natalie leave the previous night, but she ignored her and kept, walking.
Yeah. And Charlie notes that the call was about 5 minutes before she left. So that's how we know it wasn't Natalie she was texting earlier, because Charlie left late and Natalie left early and they left at the same time.
Yeah, now this sets some marbles rolling in her head as she notes that the missed call came at 7:56 and she left just a few minutes after it. Yeah.
We see some security guys or maybe police come in to break
I think
into...
both. Yeah, I think the police have came with security or people that work there to open up Natalie's locker, obviously, to look for...
Yes, but Shell knows the combination and they put it in and get the locker open. And meanwhile, Frost sends a text to Charlie to let her know that it's time to go to work.
There's a nice transition shot from Kane's suite where we see him with his trophy blonde drops down 2 different floors.
Yes, I like this.
Yeah, to the room occupied by Charlie and Sterling. She is still upset about missing this call and mentions that it must have arrived when she was with him.
Yeah, and Frost's obviously not delighted at having to take on this additional hassle.
No, he tells her, there's nothing you could have done about it, don't beat yourself up.
He's trying to sound sympathetic without lying, obviously. He explains, nobody knows why she made that call. It could have been for a lot of reasons and she can't blame herself. And
she has to focus on the job at hand. So he informs her that the rooms they are in are identical to Kane's above, except for the higher ceiling in the presidential suite.
Yes. But although Frost is trying to go through this setup, Charlie's still thinking about Natalie and wondering why she left early. And Frost isn't pleased to hear that she spoke to Natalie's manager.
No, there's a quick cut back, a cut scene to that.
Yeah, that conversation.
Yeah. She's confused as to why Natalie didn't clock out. Something big must have happened for her not to...
Yeah, well, she figures something scared her. That's why she's called Charlie and then left immediately.
Yeah.
Frost suggests maybe her husband called her, but Charlie says it can't be that because she kept her phone off when she was working.
I thought this was very Columbo as well. You often get this where the bad guys try to come up with solutions rather than saying, I don't know.
Yeah.
They try to be too smart and offer possible.
It's a trope, isn't
and
it?
then often what happens is they think that Columbo leads them into this trap of making them get through this potential solution and then going, yeah, good idea. But, and then explains why it couldn't have happened.
It can't be that one, yeah. Frost tries to insist that Gerry is the obvious culprit here and Charlie needs to stop thinking about this and focus on what they're doing.
And she does, by telling him about the problems with the potential camera positions and advising that he gets more of them and they have to be put in the lamps, which impresses him.
Yes, he likes that idea.
Not sure how she would have that sort of knowledge or...
Don't know. Anyway, we see her driving off and messing up the traffic a little bit because she's obviously not concentrating on what she's doing.
No,
and maybe slightly drunk.
Quite possible. She's drinking all the time, yeah. She arrives at the local sheriff's office where she tries to get him to help.
I'm still not sure I understand how I can help you.
All right, so she was a friend of mine. Look, you can see here. She tried to call me the night she died, and I don't know why. And then I thought, her personal belongings.
Personal belongings?
Her phone. If I could just see her phone, then maybe she called someone else or texted someone else, or maybe she sent an email or something that would just...
Yeah, I can't help you with that.
But it's here, right? In the thing with the cage, with the bars.
In jail? Why would her phone be in jail?
The smaller bars, little bars. I'm not, what's the word?
Little jail?
No, where you
like we built a little jail for her phone?
Where you lock up the evidence, the locker, the evidence locker. Jesus.
You know why it's in the evidence locker? Because it's evidence. Go ahead.
Oh, may I?
Once the coroner's determination is official, it's all sent to the next of kin, probably her mom. I know it's different on TV, but when you're a cop, you don't just toss evidence around. Hey! Look, work in this county, I see this more than I'd like. Domestic abuse escalating to something like this, it's usually the result of a pattern. You were not responsible for that pattern.
It isn't that. Look, Gerry was a son of a bitch, but there's something off here. There's a lie. I need to find it.
The investigation isn't closed yet. I'll check with the coroner, I'll go over everything again, and if you can think of anything specific that can help, call me. I promise, you give me something I can use, I'll use it. But do me a favor. Trust us to do our job. You're not a cop.
There was a very prominent Columbo mannerism in there.
Mm-hmm.
When she
grabs the photo? Or?
No, she puts her hand to her head a sort of flat palm.
Exaggerated.
Yeah, then normally he holds it like this because he's normally got
like what?
a
You're
cigar.
on a radio.
It's for your benefit. People can watch this. You put your hand to your head and you don't curve it round your hair because you're holding a cigar. So it's sort of a flat hand just at the top of your head. And also, I think as well that she's got a sort of hunch that Columbo's got that she puts on. I'm assuming she puts it on. But yeah, she's sort of, I think, got her shoulders a little bit hunched over.
Yeah. I think the end of that scene shows the key difference in dynamic between Columbo and Charlie, and that she's not got any institutional support. Although he doesn't always seem like he does work for the police and he can arrest people. Yeah. Whereas she's basically just out there with this skill, which we can talk about more later on.
Okay. And we should say that during that clip, she picks up a photo of the crime scene, the murder scene, showing the gun in Gerry's right hand.
Yes. We then head back to the trailer park where Charlie's drinking a beer and taking a call from Frost. I assume this is maybe the next morning?
Yeah, an agitated Sterling calls, apparently because of her. The sheriff is now going to open a new round of questioning. So is this BS? I said before, if he's basically running the cops, then is this...
Well, maybe he's not got as much power as he thinks he does. She would call it out if it was. Anyway, he says they're just about to nail Kane, and she points out that this thing that you just said, Gerry had the gun in his right hand, but she knows that he was left-handed.
Now, he claims there could be a million reasons for this, and then reveals something when he refers to the sheriff as Parky.
Yeah.
Sheriff Parker, obviously, so that shows that he's in sort of close terms with him.
Yeah, we then get the point when he starts almost gaslighting her, when he tells her that he's explained to the cop that she was emotionally distraught and he would speak to her, but they shouldn't use any more resources on it. And this is him now speaking to her, and he's emphasising that you need to get on with this job that we're doing. You need to stop worrying about that girl. This
puzzles her, and she asks him if the cops do exactly what he says.
He certainly thinks they do.
Well, he laughs and tells her that he will see her in the morning and hangs up, so he doesn't deny it.
And she reflects on the fact that she's not a cop.
Yeah, I think she says, I'm not a cop, bitch.
We then skip ahead to your favourite character, Jono, breaking into Natalie's house for Charlie.
Yeah, he's very nervous, and I think obviously he's got a history of
he's
crime.
Maybe on probation or something.
Yeah, doesn't want to get caught here. So he's picking the lock, and after entering, she tells him not to steal anything and then to wait in the car.
Yeah. He sees a photo of Natalie and asks Charlie if she'll be upset about her breaking into the home.
She pokes around, and what does she find?
It's like an iPad tablet type thing. She can't log in initially, but she then tries to use that photo as face recognition, which doesn't work.
No chance.
But that's an idea to store away for a future episode.
Okay. We see her waking up the next morning.
She's obviously been trying passcodes. That wouldn't work if it was an iPad.
I was going to say, or even an Android device, it'll be a lockout. You can only try
it would just be erased.
Because a password is only 4 digits. It's very easy to get through. It's only like...
Yeah. Anyway, we next see Charlie having failed to log into the tablet overnight, wandering down the street in her pyjamas and a dressing gown, still trying it.
Yeah, that's where we see really she is an alcoholic.
Yeah, she gets to the liquor store where no one asks any questions about her being there in her jammies.
No, to buy beer straight away, and she has to use the cash machine to get...
And we see that the PIN for her card and her phone are both 1234.
Dreadful pins for a start. In fact, I don't even think you're allowed to use that. I think the machine...
Some things would lock that as an option, yeah.
Yeah. But this sets again...
Marble rolling.
Yeah. So she herself realises that...
Shell knows.
Yes, but she realises that she reuses passwords.
Yes, for more than one device. Yes.
And she thinks, Natalie probably does this as well. And if that's the case, then we know that her colleague knows that one. Let's try it.
So Charlie calls Shell, who is up to high-do with her mental children. But Charlie, who couldn't remember the word locker, we heard that in the clip at the police station, again can't remember the word locker. This happens to me as well. Now I think it's just the age that you get to.
Anyway, she's always drunk.
Well, there's that as well. I'm not. She learns that the locker code is 9248 and it works on the tablet.
And although struggling to find anything on it at first, she sees a picture of a cloud on the home screen, which obviously makes her think of cloud storage.
Yes. So she goes into photos and goes through a bunch of selfies, and then in the recently deleted folder are the ones that we heard Natalie describing at the start of the episode that Gerry had got in trouble for.
I think it's quite funny. She calls it Dick Cloud. Yeah.
Yes.
But she eventually finds the shocking thing that she was looking for.
Yes, I mean, we still don't see it.
No, there's no need.
She then makes the same mistake as Natalie.
Yeah, she storms through the casino floor and into Sterling's office, where she presents the time-stamped proof of what frightened Natalie in front of him and Cliff.
She has a theory.
What's that?
Kane caught Natalie and had his bodyguards take her home, kill both her and her husband, and set it all up to look like a murder-suicide.
I thought this was quite nice as well. Cliff initially starts to say, well, you can't be sure that that's Kane's room, but Sterling knows the answer to this, and he says, yeah, she does, because it's a high ceiling.
Right, which
Which
we've been
was-
discussing.
Yeah.
But that's a good play, though, from his point of view. It's a
Yes.
honest intervention.
Well, you couldn't, yeah.
Anyhow, Cliff thinks that her theory is a bit of a jump, and there's no clear proof of any link.
She laughs at the suggestion that the two things might not be linked. She wants to call the FBI, but Sterling persuades her that they've got to take him first.
Well, he doesn't immediately persuade her.
It does
Her
sound,
initial response is F that.
yeah, but in all honesty, I would agree to. I'd rather have the 1.5 million. Because we've discussed before, this pitch, nothing's going anywhere.
We should say
It's
at
not
this
an emergency.
point that Charlie doesn't actually believe it was Kane.
You think?
This is the conversation she's recording.
Ah, yes, yeah, you're right. Yeah,
That's information we don't have yet, but yes.
but if that's the case, then why is she not just going straight to the police?
Because she doesn't have any evidence. She's come here to record this
But she
conversation.
but she doesn't get any evidence of
No, she doesn't.
this anyway.
But she's doing what Sterling told her to do and hitting them where it hurts.
Okay.
So Frost thinks he's persuaded her anyway and sends her to get breakfast, and she keeps the tablet and leaves while Frost gazes concernedly at Cliff. And down in the casino, there's a good Columbo moment. Did you spot it?
Was that the tune?
Yeah, one of the gaming machines plays This Old Man.
Brilliant. She's at the bar.
Yes, and barman hands her a Coors, but she says, no, I need a coffee.
Yeah, as a fellow waitress comes over and they watch a live news report from outside the casino on the Natalie story, which includes CCTV footage of Gerry being thrown out.
So we know that the casino must have released this footage.
Yeah.
Charlie looks concerned, having seen this, and we then see her join Cliff in the lift.
She is buzzing from the caffeine.
Yes, she tells him she was watching the news and getting angry because something doesn't fit, and now she realises it's connected to Cliff.
Yeah, it's very rapid fire fashion. Her style she's got here. It's quite fun.
The news says that Gerry was released at Natalie's request, but Charlie knows that's not true because Natalie was with her and didn't
Yes.
request anything. And Cliff asks at this point, is she on coke? And we get a bit of an ableist slur.
Yes, that's a question worth asking. So she apologises for spazzing out.
So at the time this was released, it maybe wouldn't be a big deal, but since this has happened, at least two singers, including Beyonce, have had to change lyrics and songs because they had that word in it.
Yeah.
So I think maybe in America, up until maybe 6 months or a year ago, this would be considered innocuous by a lot of people, and it's only just really been brought to the fore that this is not really acceptable.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been acceptable here, I don't
No,
think.
it definitely wouldn't.
Although, when it's a longer form, like spazzing out, if you wouldn't call someone...
I don't think we would use that phrase
No,
here.
it's just out of vogue, out of fashion.
Yeah.
But I would put it on the same level as retard these days. It used to be okay to say that. You'd see it in movies and TV shows and
Yep.
people would say it. And now you say, nah, you know what, it's
Well,
not.
we've talked about this in Quantum Leap as
We
well.
have. And in fact, in the UK, on Sky, where it's the rights at the moment, they don't show that episode,
Yeah.
Jimmy.
Who wasn't at all, he just had Down syndrome.
Yeah.
But the question, I suppose, is it in keeping with the character? Would this character, even in a scenario where it's not okay to say this, would she say it anyway? And maybe she would.
Yeah. So it's either a deliberate, like showing that that's the type of character she is, or else...
It's just an innocuous.
Yeah.
I don't think we can really conclude either way.
No.
Anyway, I don't think it happens again.
No.
So Cliff says that they decided to let Gerry go without pressing charges, and when Charlie asks whether he came back, he says no, and tells her that she knows he's telling the truth.
Yeah, she stares into his eyes and says, yeah, okay, that's fine, which is a bit of a mistake. A little bit later, after watching a practice round of cards on the monitor...
Which is not how poker's played. He's saying, I've got the 8 of hearts.
Yeah,
Who
no,
does that?
I don't know.
Unless I'm not going to the wrong poker games. I want to go to the ones where everyone tells me what they've got.
She leaves Sterling's room where she's been watching and accurately tells him which cards he was bluffing with. And she's also impressed with the tiny cameras that are now installed in the lamps, as per her suggestion.
Yes, and she gets told how she's going to communicate with the ringer in the game.
How's that?
She's got a clicker and it buzzes his ankle.
Okay, yeah, and was it 1 for yes, 2 for bullshit or something?
I'm glad they went with ankle and not going back to her earlier article.
Yeah.
With an inserted buzzer.
I'm wondering if
that happened in something, didn't it? Was that a court case or something? Or was it a quiz?
I can't remember.
Somebody had... Oh, it was chess.
Oh, yes,
it was the chess
Magnus Carlsen and the... Yeah,
yes, the guy had the buzzing thing inserted.
Using an anal bead.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if would there be an easier way to do that these days, just with like a smartwatch?
But maybe they're watching for that, though. You have to know that the guys around them are watching them.
Okay. Anyway, where were we?
She gets told 1 click for true, 2 for BS,
Yeah,
not to freak out when the money gets big.
Yeah.
So, before they go, she asks Frost a question.
What was that?
She wants to know about the call he took on the day that Natalie died. He took it when they were talking. She asked if everything was okay, and we heard that from the other end of the line, remember? And he was lying when he said yes. Yeah,
she apologises for her abruptness here, which she blames on the coffee. And he takes a moment and tells her truthfully that it was Cliff on the other end.
But rather than make a statement about what it was about, ask her a question.
Well, she presses and says, what was it about?
He says, what do you think it was about? And she reckons some random security thing. And he says he gets 50 calls a day from Cliff about 50 different things. So he's not really answered her question at all, which is probably what she expected. Yeah, so sensing that maybe she's pushing it too much or she might be in trouble, she gets up and she leaves. Now, mentioned at the start of the podcast, I was thinking that this would be in Columbo. She would come back into the room here. They're talking about how they're under pressure, and she would do a one more thing. Now, I wasn't necessarily expecting her to say one more thing, but to do the same just to come back in and ask another question. But she doesn't. No. He closes the door and tells Cliff that she's sharp, but she doesn't know anything. And Cliff is more concerned than that. Yeah. He refers to her as a human lie detector, and who's a regular little Michael Weston, not Columbo. They could have had that. Yeah. They could have been on. Do you know Michael Weston? Yes, I've watched Burn Notice. It's one of those casual things that I'll put on the background with Bruce Campbell and Sharon Gless. I've read both of their autobiographies. Okay, quite good. Cliff suggests they call off this heist right now, and Frost isn't having it. He wants things done his way. He's got a plan. We're sticking to the plan. They're getting the money, then they're dealing with Charlie, and Cliff says he is the boss. But meanwhile... What? Outside... What? Kane leaves in a fleet of cars. Yeah, he's waved off, apparently going for his dinner. Yes, this is what they want to happen, because they have to now get into his apartment or his suite and put in the cameras. Yeah, we see Cliff enter, and he swaps out the lamps. And back in the casino floor... he walks through the floor, and he stands near the inside man. Yeah, the ringer that they're putting in the game. Yeah. No, well, it's not a ringer. A ringer is someone who's a lot like a pro who's not meant to be. This is just an inside man. Got additional advantages, isn't he? Anyway. He shakes his head to signify that they're not ready yet. Yeah, and he gets them to have another drink at the bar. Is this not going to be dubious to everyone in this game? This guy who's new, just shown up, is now suddenly telling us to have another drink at the bar and stuff like that? Yeah, maybe. Anyway, Cliff returns to Frost, who is worried that Charlie hasn't shown up, but she does come in 20 minutes late. Yeah, she seems quite unconcerned with her lateness and helps herself to a beer, but Sterling is just relieved that she's turned up. Cliff heads out to check on Kane whilst... Well, I don't think he's relieved. He's quite annoyed with her, isn't he? No, but I think... the anger at her being late is overtaken by the relief that she actually is here. Yeah. He'll deal with that later on. Or maybe he won't have to. He's beginning to realise that he's got another problem. What's that? She's unresponsive. Yeah, he offers her something to eat, but is unsettled by her just staring at him before she speaks up, and everything collapses around him.
I got no way to elegantly segue into this, so I'm just going to launch in.
Segue into what?
My friend Natalie. How she did the thing I'm always yelling at my phone about. She did the right thing when she saw something awful, and she actually did something about it. And you killed her for it. Well, you had Cliff kill her. Same thing. Say bullshit if it isn't true. Look me in the eye and say it. There's only one reason she would have taken a picture of Kane's laptop. To turn him in. To show someone. like the police. But she didn't show the police, obviously. She tried to call me, but I missed it. She didn't tell her supervisor. So I figured, Sterling. I figured she came to you and Cliff that night. Did I figure right?
You figured. This accusation is based on figuring.
I figured. God, that's a weird word. You say it over and over. I was figuring until this morning, when I saw something on the TV, and now I'm done figuring. Now I know. Gerry had his stupid little pearl-handled pistol. He had it on him when he came to the casino. I saw it. I told Cliff about it. Cliff wrestled him into his office, then escorted him out. So, what do you see here?
I see what everyone sees. A drunk shit kicker threatening his trailer trash wife. That's all there is to see.
Nuh-uh.
So the veneer's dropping a bit with Frost here, isn't it?
Certainly is. Also, again, very Columbo. The I figured. That's the,
Yeah, and just presenting the evidence.
yeah.
Charlie points out at this point that the metal detector didn't go off, which means Gerry didn't leave with his gun.
And she already knows that Cliff told the truth when he said that Gerry didn't come back. Therefore, she knows the gun was in the
casino, yeah.
in the ownership of the casino.
However, she hasn't counted on what happens next.
No, at this point, it all gets a bit sinister.
Cliff is now behind her, and Frost explains how they're going to tell people that she killed herself.
Also, did you notice that it was just nicely accented, but there's a sort of low bass thud at this point when he's revealed? Just a little thing, but I appreciated it. Yeah, what does he say is going to happen to her?
Cliff is going to tell the police that Gerry didn't have his gun when he came in the first place, and no one's going to believe her, because you can't just say you can tell when people are lying. This is quite good, because that for the whole series, this exposes the problem that she's got. No one's going to believe her just saying, "Oh yeah, he's lying, I know." It also explains why it's going to be quite hard for her to resolve things.
Yeah,
without any power and without any evidence.
Exactly. You know, you think you'd have to sort of team up with someone in the police, but anyway.
Or something anyway.
Yeah.
Anyhow, Frost has Cliff take her phone and check if she's recording the conversation, hoping for a confession, because she's not getting one, but he points out...
No, before that was only the first part of the thing that's going to happen to her.
Is it?
Yeah, she's going to take a header.
Yeah, but that's after this. Okay.
All right, okay.
So Frost gets Cliff to check she's not recording on the phone and tells her that she's been distraught and drinking and missing shifts. So remember earlier she told her colleague that she was off this week, but the colleague seemed surprised to see her.
Yeah.
So maybe that's not the story that they've been getting.
Ah.
He's told her supervisors not to worry because he knew she was having a tough time, but eventually had to let her go, and she went out of control and jumped off the balcony. Future tense, or past tense in this case, but looking to the future.
So Charlie nervously laughs that no one would believe this, but Sterling smirks and tells her that she's such a state, no one would give enough of a shit not to believe it. And I thought,
it's the same as he thinks about Natalie.
Yeah.
Like, no one's going to ask the questions that you would expect to ask because no one's going to care.
Well, I think that's, that does happen in life. If you're not famous, if you're not rich or powerful or white and pretty, a lot of people won't get the attention, the exposure that they deserve. I think it's fairly common.
Yeah. And they might not be treated fairly when they do seek the justice that they're looking for. Anyhow, she says no, she's not recording tonight, but there's a twist. And as we mentioned, she was recording earlier on. Yes, the conversation where he's explaining how they're going to cheat Kane out of his money, but he still thinks he's got the upper hand. Yes, because they're his cops. They're not going to arrest him for any of this. Well, not just that, but cheating in a private game isn't illegal. Indeed. However, there's another twist. Yeah, she says she's not trying to convict him. She's, to use his own words against him, trying to hit him where it hurts. She's not sent the tape to the police. Precisely. And understanding what this means, they rush to Kane's suite and see that he is scarpered. Frost then asks Charlie, who's followed along, where she sent the recording. And when she sent it. Sorry, when she sent the recording. She says straight after the rehearsal. She then takes great satisfaction in pointing out that every single player in the industry,
will know that Sterling Frost Casino plays dirty, or Sterling himself does.
He'll be blackballed because gamblers talk, which makes Cliff laugh.
Yes. Sterling himself, he's devastated and in shock. Well, yeah, Cliff, obviously a bit of a scumbag and not a friend at all.
Yeah. He calls him a stupid effing child.
Yeah.
And then we get a phone call from Frost's father,
which causes Cliff again to mock him. And at this point, it looks like there's a shot of Charlie, and it looks like she almost feels sorry for him.
Yeah, maybe. But he doesn't take this call from his father. He just literally walks straight out the door and jumps off the balcony.
That's brilliant. Have you watched the IT Crowd?
I've seen the clip from the IT Crowd.
I think I probably showed you.
Also, there's a bit in Game of Thrones that's quite similar when one of the young kings kills himself by just walking out his window.
Okay.
Anyhow, a stunned Charlie is then chased by Cliff, who shoots at her.
He's terrible.
Why is he shooting at
Don't
her?
know, 3 or 4 times. This is going to be caught on...
Oh, he's as accurate as a stormtrooper.
Yeah. Eventually does sort of winger, but...
Yeah. He calls security. She heads down the fire escape, but...
at this point, I thought that she was going to do a Marty McFly in Back to the Future 2, where she jumps up the steering wheel and heads up.
Right.
And obviously there's a connect, but that's a casino as well.
Yeah.
So, but no, it didn't happen.
No. She comes out on the 4th floor, which we should say for our British listeners, it's the 3rd floor.
Yeah, okay, because they count, yes. But this is still odd as well. So she effectively manages to escape through this 3rd, 4th floor.
She jumps out the window. It's not high enough to kill her.
You can't. 3rd or 4th floor in a casino. That would be huge. That's ankle breaking stuff.
Clearly, she's jumping somewhere that she can jump. Maybe there's laundry or something.
You see, I thought we'd have to have shown that. I mean, why didn't they just show her getting down to the 1st floor? Because then it would have been obvious. But I'm still thinking 4th floor. No. You're not jumping from the 4th floor uninjured.
It's only the 3rd floor.
Oh, the 3rd floor. Still, you know how much a floor is if you look down.
Yeah, it's probably like an awning or something she can land.
Yeah,
in.
that's what I'm saying. But that I would like to have seen that shown.
Yeah, well, that's better with the imagination, I think.
Nope.
She grabs a towel and parachutes to safety.
She ties towels together. Yeah.
We then see her driving off one direction as the cops head back the other way towards the casino, before we catch up with her in a bar on the road. Yeah,
I thought it was a diner bar. Yeah, she's sitting there. She retrieves the sheriff's business card and sends him the incriminating photograph from Kane's room and pleads with him to do his job.
That's not the only person she sends it to.
Nope. Who else?
The CIA.
Yep.
The FBI.
And most importantly,
Oprah. Oprah's going to get a shock when she opens that email.
That's disseminating. Yeah.
Anyhow, Charlie orders a beer before scrolling through reports of Frost Jr.'s death. At this point, the phone rings.
And it's Frost Sr.
Yeah, he tells her things are a mess. There wasn't enough of his son left for him to identify. He says he let her off and gave her a life, but she should tell him where she is, because there's nowhere she can hide.
No, make it, I suppose, quicker and less painful. But no, she doesn't obviously just give herself up. We see her next smashing up her phone so she can't be traced.
We should say he openly says he's going to kill her.
Yeah.
She then destroys her phone, hits the road, and that's the end of the episode.
Yeah, off on a new adventure as Paul McCartney and Wings play Junior's farm.
That's what I've written down as well, yeah.
Right, okay.
Junior obviously being Frost Jr.
Yeah.
So the notes I've made, Charlie is instantly engaging, flawed but compelling.
Without a doubt, it's just so watchable, and the character, there is it's a rough around the edges persona, which you don't often see.
It's endearing that you want her to succeed. You root for her almost straight away.
Yeah, and because she's not bitter, I think that's brilliant as well. See, if she was like, I could have been
Cynical
a millionaire and cynical, but she's like quite happy-go-lucky and not really looking for trouble. But she has that integrity herself.
But she's not flawless.
No, she's not flawless, but she's not scared to do what's right.
Yeah.
She could easily have just taken the money and been set for life, you know?
Yeah. Do you think it makes sense that Frost's father's mad at her?
Yeah.
You think so?
I mean, even though he doesn't like his son.
He doesn't want him dead.
Doesn't want him dead, no. Although
What do you think are Cliff's motivations?
For what?
For everything that he does in the whole episode. Why is he shooting at her at the end?
I mean, I think maybe loyalty. I think he probably worked for Frost Senior.
So you think that's where his loyalty is with the father?
Yeah, I think he basically maybe not free reign, but he's got a sort of cushy number there.
Yeah.
And he just wants to keep his job, and he's a bad guy. He's just
gets to be a bad guy, I suppose, yeah. Okay. Any other thoughts? No,
I mean, this is going to be a very long episode, so we can, we will chat about a lot of the other sort of
I should talk about one more thing before we finish, is her ability to detect lies. Do you like that as a feature?
Yes, but like I said, like we said, I'm a little bit confused about how it's implemented. It's not. I'm glad it's not supernatural. Like, I wouldn't be happy if it was like she had some sort of, power. She says that herself. I'm not. She's just very good at intuiting. She had.
It's almost the same as Columbo has. Except she's just put a name on it.
But was it Columbo Magic we used to?
That's what we used to call it. Yeah.
Yeah. I think she can read people. She knows.
I don't like the suggestion that it's infallible. That's my only concern with it. I like the idea that she believes it's infallible, but the fact that it so far has always been. But it's just you need to take a bit of time with it.
Okay. Right. As I said, we're running quite long here. Will we get through the sort of cast and crew trivia and any other sort of... We've not really discussed the structure of this podcast, what we're going to do, so maybe you've got some
other bits and
ideas.
pieces. Yes, we'll do the cast first, and
What we should say first of all is that the cast is fantastic, and
not just this episode.
Yeah, I've heard that there are some big names.
Very much so.
They don't get much bigger than Adrian Brody being an Oscar winner.
So good as well.
Oh, fantastic. He played, obviously, Sterling Frost, born in April 1973. He won the Academy Award for Best Actor in 2003 for his role in The Pianist. Exactly. Also in Grand Hotel Budapest, Midnight in Paris, The Brothers Bloom, which was written and directed by Rian Johnson. The Summer of Sam, that's a good movie. With John Leguizamo. Anyway. Lots of other movies, obviously.
He's in a lot of Wes Anderson stuff.
Is he?
So including Grand Budapest Hotel, but also most recently Asteroid City.
Sure.
Which I quite enjoyed.
Okay. According to the internet, he is in a relationship with Georgina Chapman. Now, Georgina Chapman, I noticed her... she was in a Danny Dyer movie called The Business.
Okay.
Danny Dyer's I was going to say a guilty pleasure, but I don't believe in guilty pleasures. You just like things, don't you?
Yeah, you like what you
quite like to, yeah. It's not sophisticated, but The Business is quite a good movie. Anyway, she was a natural... I remember her because she was absolutely gorgeous. But she, unfortunately, is the ex-wife and mother of a couple of kids to Harvey Weinstein.
Oh.
Anyway, so that's that. Also, he has a pseudonym.
Okay.
Byron Deidre, which is anagram of his real name.
What does he use that for?
He only used it in one. It was Giallo, where he sued the producers for non-payment. So I think maybe it was well, we saw this with Columbo a bit maybe in Star Trek when folk weren't happy they would use pseudonyms. Yeah, there's a famous one. What is it? Is it John Smith? Or John Smythe? John Smythe, where directors, that's what they do.
Yeah.
They if they're embarrassed about the production, maybe it's been changed from what they're envisaged. That's the Smythe. Is it John or John? Something Smythe, I think. Anyway, where were we? Yes. So Natalie Hill was played by Dasha Polanco, born on the 3rd of December 1982 in the Dominican Republic. She was in 89 episodes of Orange is the New Black and Russian Doll alongside Natasha Lyonne. Yeah,
I think she's quite prominent in Orange is the New Black.
I've heard it's very good. I've not watched it.
I've not, but I know people who have who really, really like it.
Most recently, I saw her or heard her in DC League of Super Pets.
I've not seen that one. Is that a good one?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Also in The Irishman and The Cobbler. Now, in 2015, she was arrested for assault on a teenager, but the charges were dropped when police apparently determined that the allegations were part of an extortion plot by a neighbour.
Interesting. Maybe not interesting so much as scary.
Yeah. And she didn't start acting until she was 28, by all accounts. I like, you do hear these stories of people, sometimes like older character actors.
I like the ones when they're in their 60s and they're going to play old women. Yeah. And all their credits are old women.
As I'm saying, I've still got this harbouring this. I'm probably too old to be a Hollywood leading man now, right? But I can be a character actor in the future.
Yeah, if you make your TV debut, just let us know.
Yeah. Well, I have already. We've discussed that.
Well, when it comes on, we'll talk about it.
Yeah, we'll see it, yeah. Anyway, where were we? Okay. John O, played by Jeremy Lawrence. I'm not sure when he was born, doesn't tell us, but he is a character actor himself. He's been in The Blacklist, New Amsterdam, the Tony Danza Show, Critters, Highway to Heaven, and Happy Days. He was also in, and I've not watched this, and it's a movie we've discussed recently, another Midnight Run, which is I think they've made about 2 or 3 sequels to the fantastic Midnight Run. Now, we discussed that because a Quantum Leap episode
Very
effectively ripped it off.
I've seen that movie.
You have, I made you watch it, and you enjoyed it, didn't you?
I did enjoy that.
You know, it's good for you. Listen to me. So Midnight Run, brilliant. Another Midnight Run. Not seen it. I'm going to say it's terrible.
Almost certainly.
Yeah.
But that's no reason not to watch it.
No, I watch it. Sheriff Parker was played by Noah Sagan. He was born on the 5th of October 1983. Let's see if we can detect a trend here. He has starred in, or been in, Knives Out, Glass Onion, Star Wars, Episode 8, Brick, Looper, and The Brothers Bloom.
He just likes to be in good stuff.
Obviously.
Yeah.
He's also, I think he's written, directed Blood Relatives, and he was in Dawson's Creek and Married with Children. He is the grandson of Arthur Rothstein, who was a respected photographer, I think a sort of documentarian type photographer. Gerry Hill, the scumbag. He's been in Bro Time.
Who plays him?
Michael Reagan. Bro Time, The New MacGyver, Joe Bennett, or Joe Benet, An American Murder Mystery.
John Benet.
Oh, yeah, is it John Benet?
Must be John Benet.
Yes.
Dominic Ramsey,
yeah. All the Queen's Men, and recently Lovecraft Country.
Ooh.
Now, this one's interesting. Kane was played by Eddie Gorodetsky.
Okay.
He's a producer, a prolific and highly successful producer.
Yeah, we've got an acting role for you.
Yeah, well, so, okay, he's born in 1966, but this is his work. 2.5 Men, Dharma and Greg, Mom, The Big Bang Theory, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, amongst lots of other things. 7 Primetime Emmy nominations and an award in 1985 for outstanding writing on a David Letterman show. So I wonder what the connection is here.
He's probably said, "Hey Ryan, can I be in your show?" He says, "Yes, but you have to do this." He's like, "Fine."
You have to be up.
Do I get to wear a nice gown? Yes.
I'm wondering if they're friends, because this guy's a mass. He must be a multimillionaire with these shows. He obviously doesn't need to be a bit part.
No,
So-
it's just something he would enjoy doing.
I wonder if we can find out why was he in this, playing that part.
Someone can phone in. Let us know.
Okay, trivia.
Okay, I've got some as well.
Do you want to go first?
Okay. So there's no Columbo connections in this or any other episode of the series. Nobody's worked on both Columbo and this show so far. In fact, from all the shows that we've done, we talked about at the top of this, the only connections are 3 Quantum Leap connections.
Really?
So in episode 5 and episode 9, there's acting ones. We'll come to them.
Come to that, yeah.
And there's a set costumer called Kim Meyer, M-Y-E-R, who when she was on Quantum Leap was called Kim McClellan. And
Right.
that's it.
Okay.
Probably going to need a new feature.
Anything else? No?
The casino exteriors, did you have this note? They were Don Laughlin's Riverside Resort Hotel and Casino in Laughlin, Nevada.
Yes, named for him. He was a gambling entrepreneur, a hotelier, and obviously a big man on campus.
It's
as they
near
say.
the Davis Dam at the southern end of Lake Mojave. It's about 100 miles south of Vegas.
Across the thing at Bullhead, I think it is, yeah. Yeah, so the name was changed and digitally changed.
Yeah, it's quite clever, isn't it?
But well, back in it, I mean, that's obviously a quick fix. Back in the day, imagine it cost hundreds of thousands to
Put
put
a
up
new
new
sign up,
signage.
yeah. Most of the series, though, or this episode and the series, were filmed in New York State.
Oh, don't spoil it for me. As far as I know, it's all set around here. I've only watched one
Filming
episode.
locations are.
Yeah,
this was set in Nevada and was filmed in New York.
Anyway,
And as you've already said, that the music at the end was Junior's Farm, and we've talked about the costume designer.
and of course, Dead Man's Hand.
I've got a lot of information about that.
Well, everyone knows that. That's the Aces and Eights, which was apparently the cards that Wild Bill Hickok was holding when he was killed.
However, contemporary reports suggest that in the 1850s, Dead Man's Hand was a hand of 3 jacks and 2 tens.
Oh.
An interesting fact, the Las Vegas Police Homicide Division have 2 aces and 2 eights on their logo.
Really?
Yeah.
That's nice, isn't it? Okay, now what I've got here, I think that we can make this a regular sort of feature. Just run through the clues that we came across. So, the missed call that she received and the timing of that.
Yeah.
The fact that Natalie's phone was off when she was working.
Yeah.
Natalie herself leaving in a hurry and ignoring people. The photo of the gun in Gerry's right hand.
Yes.
Sterling having the authority over the police department. The photo itself from Kane's room.
Yep.
And then the Gerry passing through the metal detector without the gun.
Okay.
Anything else?
Other than lies that she's noted
Mm-hmm.
when she asked him if everything was okay and he said yes, and he was lying.
Sure. Well, we're over. That's a bit.
I've got one more feature that I want to slip in here.
Ah,
So I've
nice.
got a list of people who did crimes in the episode that we noticed.
That did
And
crimes.
Are they likely to be convicted, or will they
Okay,
get away with
I
it?
bet you've missed one, and I'll pick up on it. Go for it.
So the ones I've got, you've got Kane and whatever he was up to in his laptop.
Okay, you'd like to think that Oprah would sort that out.
Yep. And you've then got Cliff, who shot at least 2 people dead and also shot Charlie.
You'd like to, again, think that there must be... Every casino will have CCTV, and yeah, I think...
But does he have enough influence to get away with it? If he's in with Frost Senior.
I still think it's bigger than that now. It's not a localised crime.
You've got Gerry, who went nuts in the casino and also assaulted Natalie.
He's
to give her
dead.
a black eye, so he's not getting convicted because he's dead, but
Yeah.
he committed crimes.
Yeah.
Jono and Charlie broke into Natalie's house.
No, there won't be any repercussions there.
That's it.
Okay, what about Charlie drink driving?
Okay, well, we don't actually have a blood test. So.
Okay,
Right, what else are you going to go with?
that was that.
Are we done?
Yeah, we are.
Okay, so next week, the second episode of the series is called The Night Shift, and we'll find Charlie in New Mexico helping out a trucker.
Look forward to it. So until then,
Cheerio.
bye-bye.